Dr. Ghate, earlier you were talking about the foundation of how we think about morality, and you'd briefly mentioned in passing that you liked the method more than other people of Dawkins, for example. And then, Dr. Brook, you talked about evolutionary biology in your context right now, and so I think it's still relevant. So a lot of atheists, new atheists, and just people that are interested in evolution and biology as such, they have their sense of morality come from, they say, well, we get our sense of morality from evolution. We just know from these ways, and so it seems to be this intrinsic form of morality, as distinguished from the intrinsic morality of people that use religion. And so that's just what that's how I gather it, but you might have a different conclusion. Do you think that the method of people like Dawkins or of Harris are better than religion, even though they use either a subjective or an intrinsic way of looking at ethics?
So I'll say something on Dawkins, because it may be that I misspoke in the lecture. What I respect about Dawkins is the emphasis that he places on science, his clear love of science, that he doesn't apologize for it, but rather thinks this is something very significant about him as a person, which I think is true, and that this is a characteristic that you should want to emulate. This kind of wonder, curiosity, passionate investigation of the natural world is a tremendous virtue, and it's part of it to have a real conception of what you should have reverence for. This is the kind of thing that you should have reverence for. So he's good on all that, I think. And he's somewhat unusual in that, and I have a lot of respect for him in that regard and for many of his other work. But in regard to morality, it's not that I think the method is good. The method is not good, emphatically not good, and it's a good illustration of the point that I was making, that it's way harder to challenge morality than it is to challenge religion, and religion is already hard to challenge. Because what Dawkins does is, in effect, takes Jefferson's view that there's a moral sense and gives an evolutionary spin on this. We all just know what's right and wrong, and the reason is not because the creators implanted some, it's evolution has programmed us to know what is right and wrong. And what ends up happening in his view, but this is a lot of the new atheists, I think Harris is better in this regard actually, but is that the whole content of morality is determined by Christianity, and then he gives an evolutionary spin on it. And if he did this in science, or if scientists do that, he would say, this is monstrously wrong. You can't take what's, and this is his kind of line, you can't take what some shepherds in 500 BC said and so on, and take this now, this is going to dictate the content of our science. But he does that in morality, in effect. And this is that to have people who can challenge the content of morality and be moral innovators is such a rare phenomenon, and Ayn Rand is, I mean, this is a regard in which she is such a rare phenomenon.
Well, one more thing, do you think that method is any better or worse than the religious approach where you, or is it basically the same in methodology?
It's better, but it's not good.
Okay, thank you.
It's better, but at the same time, much more disappointing in the sense that these people show you that they can think on certain issues, right? And they're challenging the status quo, and they're brave, right? They're courageous in the way they go up against religion on certain issues, and then they fall flat when it comes to morality, or in Sam Harris's case, when it comes to free will. It's so disappointing that they, that they don't take that courage.
And could have known better, should have known better, right? Because
it's almost they should have known, but it emphasizes Onkar's point of how hard to penetrate morality is, how hard to challenge the morality. You can challenge religion, you can challenge the supernatural, but to challenge morality, that requires an Ayn Rand. I mean, that is, and these, at least Harris, I don't know about Dawkins, but at least have some exposure to Ayn Rand, and yet there's still this rejection of it. So.
I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize, I know this is difficult, Can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith. Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
How does objectivism differ from the philosophies that many of us have been exposed to in our youths? Philosophies based upon religions, theologians, dogmatists.
The very first difference, objectivism tells you that it is not right, it is not proper to man to take anything on faith. Religion is a matter of faith. You accept a religion emotionally or because you were born to it. You have not chosen it rationally. What objectivism will tell you is that reason, man's reason is his basic means of survival. That is the most important faculty which he has, and he has to guide his life and make his choices by means of his rational faculty. He has to make his own choices, but he has to know how to make them. It is immoral for him to act on his emotions, to be guided by the whim of the moment. That objectivism holds as very wrong, very immoral. And morality, in fact, consists of following your reason to the best of your ability. So that rationality is the basic virtue from which all the others proceed.
My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
Tell me the value of selfishness.
Use another word, self-esteem. The value of selfishness is that you esteem yourself as a value, that you live according to your nature, which means by the judgment of your own mind, and you respect your own mind, you respect your own ability to do the right thing, therefore you respect the possibility of being a morally virtuous person, and you regard yourself as a value worth preserving. To make a success of yourself in any line of rational activity is a great virtue. And people will attack you for exercising your ability, for hard work, for consistency, for ambition. And they will want to make you feel guilty of it. That is the greatest evil, according to my philosophy.
And wait, say that again. The greatest evil, according to your philosophy, is to attack an individual because of virtue.
What I call it is to experience or act on hatred of the good for being the good. That is attacking people for their virtues, for their achievements, for anything they have which is a value, actually, not for their flaws and not for their evil. In fact, people who preach that are the ones who are mawkish about the evil people, the failures, the liars, the cheats, everybody who is weak suddenly acquires some kind of value. But anyone who is a success has to be attacked for his success.
And look at how you have been attacked.
Oh, I know.
How you have been criticized. There
You know that?
There are many people in this country, forgive me, in this world who think you're daft.
They don't. They want you to think that.